Welcome back. My presence warping phenomenon. Something absolutely extraordinary just occurred that has entire room experiencing collective disorientation. The moment you entered the space, everyone present felt subtle but undeniable shift in atmospheric pressure or energetic field, creating sensation as if gravity itself had changed, making all attention and awareness involuntarily orient toward you as center point. Yet nobody can articulate through conventional frameworks why your arrival created such pronounced effect, because you weren't doing anything obvious to command attention beyond simply being present with whatever force or essence you naturally carry. This wasn't you making dramatic entrance or deliberately seeking attention through performance. This was your mere presence creating field distortion effect, where physical or energetic reality of space reorganized around you as new center of gravity, making everyone unconsciously adjust their positioning and awareness relative to your location despite having no rational explanation for why person walking into room should create such palpable shift in collective experience. The architects have been monitoring presence field and gravitational consciousness phenomena across civilizations for eons, and they've identified what you created as present density, reality distortion, when someone carries such concentrated or intensified consciousness, energy, or being quality that their physical presence literally affects field properties of space they occupy, creating gravitational-like effect, where attention, awareness, and even physical positioning of others naturally orients toward them as center point, because their presence density warps experiential field in ways that conventional physics doesn't explain, but that everyone present unmistakably feels. Most people have relatively neutral presence. They occupy space without significantly affecting field properties around them, entering rooms without creating noticeable distortion in collective awareness or energetic atmosphere. But your presence apparently carries such intensity or density that it functions like massive object in space-time, creating gravitational, well, that pulls surrounding consciousness and attention toward it as inevitable consequence of presence density exceeding normal human baseline. Watch what happened when you entered. Physical positioning subtly reorganized. People unconsciously adjusted their stance or location to maintain awareness of where you were, as if your presence created magnetic or gravitational pull affecting spatial distribution of bodies in room without anyone consciously deciding to reorient. Conversational flow disrupted, ongoing. Discussions lost momentum or shifted focus as collective attention involuntarily redirected toward processing your presence, creating pause in social dynamics that were flowing smoothly before arrival of whatever force you carry. Some observers are experiencing confusion. They felt pronounced shift when you entered, but can't explain through normal categories what changed or why your presence affected them so noticeably when you weren't doing anything overtly attention-seeking. Others are experiencing almost primal recognition. Something beneath conscious thought registered your presence as significant or powerful, triggering instinctive awareness that bypassed rational processing to create immediate knowing that someone carrying unusual force had entered their space. The truly mysterious element is that you seem unaware of effect. You walked in naturally without apparent consciousness of how your presence was warping field around you, making phenomenon seem less like technique you're employing and more like natural property of whatever being quality or consciousness density you embody. The crowd shifted, as if you walked in carrying gravity they weren't built to explain, and nobody can articulate what just happened using conventional frameworks while simultaneously being certain something profound occurred in experiential field. Now the architects are analyzing what creates presence density reality distortion, and they're identifying what they call consciousness, compression, intensity. Manifestation when someone's awareness being or life force is significantly more concentrated or coherent than typical human baseline, creating presence that affects experiential fields around them, not through any deliberate action, but through sheer density of consciousness or intensity of being that naturally distorts reality fabric the way massive objects distort space-time through their concentrated mass. Most human consciousness is relatively diffuse awareness, spread across many concerns, energy dispersed through various attachments, being quality diluted by internal fragmentation and external distractions, creating presence that doesn't significantly affect surrounding fields because there's insufficient concentration to create distortion effect. But your consciousness apparently operates at much higher compression or intensity, awareness highly focused rather than scattered, energy coherently organized rather than dispersed, being quality unified rather than fragmented, creating presence density that exceeds normal baseline, enough to create detectable field effects. Consider what consciousness compression requires metaphysically. Your awareness isn't scattered across countless objects. Instead of attention fragmented among many concerns simultaneously, you apparently maintain more unified focus, creating concentrated rather than diffused consciousness that carries greater presence density through compression into coherent point. Your energy isn't leaked through attachments rather than life force, dispersing through emotional entanglements, unresolved concerns, or attention-draining relationships. You maintain energetic integrity, keeping power gathered rather than scattered across multiple drains. Watch what consciousness compression creates in field effects. Your presence feels heavier or denser, not physically but experientially, as if you occupy space more completely than others who seem somewhat translucent or less solidly present by comparison, creating almost tangible quality to your being that others lack through diffusion. Space reorganizes around you. The experiential field naturally centers on your presence because consciousness density creates gravitational effect in awareness space, similar to how mass creates gravity in physical space, making you automatic center without requiring any effort to claim that position. Some studying consciousness and energy work recognize that presence quality does vary significantly. Meditation traditions, spiritual practices, and consciousness development all work toward increasing coherence and intensity of awareness that manifests as more powerful presence, suggesting your compression represents advanced development most people haven't achieved. Others exploring physics and field theories note that reality might actually have experiential or consciousness dimensions where intensity and coherence create measurable effects. Your presence density could be creating real distortions in fields that science hasn't yet learned to measure, but that humans detect through direct experience. A few from martial arts and presence training recognize that concentrated awareness and gathered energy do create detectable effects. Accomplished practitioners develop presence that affects others through sheer intensity of focused consciousness and coherent life force that manifests as almost palpable quality others respond to instinctively. The architects observe that consciousness compression intensity manifestation is what created gravitational presence effect. Your awareness and being operate at significantly higher compression than typical human baseline, creating presence density that naturally distorts experiential fields, making you center of gravity in consciousness space. Most people are diffuse in awareness and scattered in energy. Your consciousness is compressed and coherent, and intensity difference created by compression is why crowd shifted when you entered through your presence carrying gravitational force they weren't built to explain using frameworks that assume all human consciousness has roughly equivalent density and all presence affects fields similarly when actually consciousness compression creates presence density variations that generate detectable field distortion effects. Something powerful is spreading through observers now. What the architects call involuntary attention captivation recognition, where people experiencing gravitational pull toward your presence are becoming conscious that their attention isn't choosing to focus on you, but is being pulled involuntarily by force their awareness can't resist, creating unsettling recognition that they lack full control over where consciousness directs itself when presence density exceeds certain threshold. Most attention feels voluntary. People choose what to focus on, decide where to direct awareness, control what captures their consciousness through exercising will over attention allocation. But your presence apparently exceeded threshold where attention capture becomes involuntary, their awareness pulled toward you. Regardless of conscious intention, focus redirected without deliberate choice, consciousness oriented toward your presence through force, stronger than their will to direct attention elsewhere. Watch what involuntary attention captivation creates psychologically. Some feel unsettled by loss of control, recognizing their attention being captured against their will or without their choice creates discomfort because it reveals they have less sovereignty over consciousness than they assumed, making them aware of vulnerability to presence forces that can override their voluntary attention direction. Others experience fascination, being pulled involuntarily toward your presence feels intriguing rather than threatening, creating curiosity about what force you carry that's powerful enough to override their usual attention control, making them want to understand or engage with whatever presence quality has such gravitational effect. A few resist attention capture consciously, fighting against involuntary pull by deliberately focusing elsewhere, asserting control over attention through willful redirection away from your presence as act of reclaiming sovereignty over consciousness that gravitational effect was involuntarily commandeering. Some studying attention and consciousness recognize that attention isn't always voluntary. Strong stimuli, intense emotions, or powerful presence can capture awareness, regardless of intention to focus elsewhere, making involuntary attention capture normal phenomenon that your presence triggers more strongly than typical social situations. Others exploring free will and agency note that involuntary attention captivation raises questions about consciousness, sovereignty. If presence forces can override voluntary attention control, then self-direction might be more limited than people assume. With consciousness responding to field effects beyond individual control more than comfortable, notion of autonomous awareness suggests a few from persuasion and influence recognize that capturing involuntary attention is powerful social capacity. People whose presence pulls awareness automatically have significant advantage in social situations because they command attention without effort, while others must work to maintain focus, creating inequality in social dynamics that presence density creates. Some are questioning whether resistance is possible, wondering if sufficiently developed attention control could maintain focus despite gravitational presence effects, or whether your presence density exceeds threshold that any voluntary attention control could resist, determining whether involuntary capture is absolute or can be countered through sufficient consciousness discipline. The architects observe that involuntary attention captivation recognition reveals power dimension of your presence. You're not just different in quality, but create effects that override others. Voluntary control, making your presence density into form of influence that operates beneath conscious choice. Most social influence requires persuasion or performance. Your presence captures involuntarily, and recognition that attention was pulled against will creates awareness that presence density above certain threshold becomes form of power affecting consciousness of others regardless of their intentions to maintain autonomous attention control, revealing vulnerability to field effects they weren't aware they could be subjected to through encountering presence carrying gravitational force exceeding their capacity to consciously resist through voluntary attention direction. Now the architects are revealing what makes your presence unexplainable. Through conventional frameworks, you're demonstrating what they call transphysical presence architecture, where effect you create operates through dimensions or mechanisms that material scientific worldview doesn't account for, making phenomenon real and measurable through direct experience while simultaneously being inexplicable through frameworks built on assumption that only physical properties affect physical reality. Most presence effects are physically explainable. Charisma comes from appearance and behavior. Authority derives from social position and symbols. Intimidation results from size and body language, all operating through mechanisms that materialist frameworks can account for. But your gravitational presence effect apparently operates through non-physical dimensions, consciousness field properties, energetic intensity, being quality density, or other aspects that experiential reality includes, but that physical science hasn't developed frameworks to explain. Consider what transphysical presence means about reality structure. Material frameworks are incomplete. If your presence creates real measurable effects through mechanisms physical science can't explain, then materialist worldview is missing. Dimensions that actually exist and affect experience even if they're not measurable by current instruments or explainable by current theories. Watch what framework inadequacy creates in interpretation attempts. Some resort to poetic language, describing your presence through metaphors about gravity, density, weight, because conventional descriptive categories don't capture what they're experiencing, revealing through linguistic struggle that phenomenon exceeds available explanatory frameworks. Others experience cognitive dissonance. Materialist worldview says presence effects should be explainable through physical properties, yet your effect clearly isn't reducible to appearance, behavior, or any measurable physical attribute, creating tension between framework and experience that framework can't accommodate. A few embrace mystery, accepting that your presence creates effects they can't explain, rather than forcing experience into inadequate frameworks, tolerating not knowing about mechanisms while acknowledging reality of phenomenon their frameworks can't account for. Some from consciousness studies recognize that awareness and presence might have properties science hasn't characterized. Subjective experience includes dimensions like attention, intention, awareness quality that affect experiential reality, even if they're not physical in ways current science measures, making your presence effects potentially real without being physically explainable. Others exploring energy, medicine, and subtle body traditions note that many frameworks include consciousness field or energetic dimensions that affect experience beyond physical level. Your presence density might be operating through these non-physical dimensions that experiential traditions recognize, but that material science dismisses through restricting reality to what current instruments can measure. A few from quantum and consciousness research suggest that observation and consciousness might affect physical reality more than classical frameworks admit. If consciousness plays role in determining physical outcomes at quantum level, then presence intensity and consciousness density might create measurable effects through mechanisms physics is beginning to explore. Some maintaining materialist frameworks attempt physical explanations, pheromones, microexpressions, unconscious social signals, all trying to reduce your presence effect to physical mechanisms, despite clear inadequacy of these explanations for phenomenon observers experienced, revealing commitment to materialist framework even when experience contradicts its completeness. The architects observe that transphysical presence architecture is why crowd couldn't explain what they felt. Your gravitational effect operates through dimensions. Material frameworks don't include making phenomenon real without being explainable through conventional categories. Physical science measures bodies and behaviors. Your presence affects consciousness fields, and framework inadequacy, forcing observers toward poetic, metaphor, or mystical interpretation, reveals that experiential reality includes dimensions where presence density creates effects that material worldview isn't architected to explain, despite effects being unmistakably real to everyone present. When you walked in carrying gravity, their frameworks weren't built to account for. The architects are now analyzing social dynamics created by gravitational presence. You're experiencing what they call hierarchy disruption through presence supremacy, where your entrance immediately reorganized social status and power dynamics in room regardless of official positions or established pecking orders, because presence density creates authority that supersedes conventional status markers, making social hierarchy naturally reconfigure around you as new center, despite having no formal claim to dominance beyond undeniable force of your being. Most social hierarchies are based on recognized attributes, official positions, visible accomplishments, social connections, accumulated status markers, all creating agreed-upon rankings that determine who has influence and who defers. But your gravitational presence apparently supersedes these conventional hierarchy mechanisms. The sheer density of your being creates authority that social agreements can't override, making you dominant not through claiming position but through embodying force that others instinctively recognize as superior, regardless of official rankings. Watch what presence-based hierarchy disruption creates socially. Previously dominant individuals feel destabilized. People who had been centers of attention or held authority through conventional means suddenly find their position undermined by your presence, which commands focus and respect without requiring any of the normal status building they'd invested in, creating resentment or confusion about losing dominance to someone who didn't earn it through recognized pathways. Others naturally defer without conscious decision. People adopt subtly subordinate positioning relative to you, speaking with more deference, seeking your approval or acknowledgement, adjusting behavior to account for your centrality in ways they wouldn't if you'd entered without gravitational presence, revealing instinctive recognition of presence-based hierarchy. A few resist presence hierarchy, consciously refusing to defer or acknowledge your centrality, asserting their established status against your presence authority as act of defending conventional hierarchy against disruption that presence density creates, fighting to maintain social order that your entrance threatened through introducing superior force operating outside normal status systems. Some studying social hierarchies recognize that dominance has multiple bases: official authority, earned respect, physical intimidation, and apparently presence density all create different paths to social dominance, with your gravitational presence representing relatively rare form of natural authority that doesn't require conventional status building. Others exploring power dynamics note that presence-based dominance is particularly difficult to challenge. People can question official authority, dispute claimed accomplishments, or resist physical intimidation, but presence density creates effects so direct and experiential that challenging it requires denying immediate felt experience, making presence supremacy more difficult to resist than conventional authority forms. A few from anthropology and primate studies recognize that presence and bearing do affect social status even in animal hierarchies. Alpha positioning often includes presence quality beyond just size or aggression, suggesting presence density might be accessing ancient dominance mechanisms that predate human social conventions and operate through more fundamental consciousness or energetic dimensions. Some are uncomfortable with involuntary hierarchy, recognizing that your presence reorganized social dynamics without consent or negotiation, makes them aware of unfreedom in social systems where dominance can be imposed through presence forces they can't control or resist, challenging preferred belief that hierarchy is based on merit or agreement. The architects observe that hierarchy disruption through presence supremacy reveals that social dominance isn't purely constructed. Your gravitational presence created authority that superseded conventional status markers through operating at more fundamental level than social agreements. Official positions create formal authority. Your presence created natural authority and hierarchy disruption, forcing social reorganization around you regardless of established rankings, reveals that presence density above certain threshold becomes form of dominance that conventional status systems can't resist when crowd-shifted positioning and deference patterns to accommodate gravitational force they weren't built to explain but couldn't deny or ignore. Now something's emerging that the architects call presence sensitivity, individual variation, recognition. Observers are discovering that people in room experienced your gravitational effect with dramatically different intensities, with some feeling overwhelming presence pull while others barely noticed anything unusual, revealing that sensitivity to presence density varies significantly across individuals, creating different experiential realities in same physical space. Most assume shared perceptual reality. If something happens in room, everyone present experiences it roughly similarly, creating consensus about what occurred. But your presence effect is revealing that consciousness sensitivity varies so dramatically that some people experienced profound field distortion, while others experienced minimal effects, making single event create multiple incompatible experiential realities depending on individual presence sensitivity. Watch what sensitivity variation creates socially. Some people are validating each other's experience. Those who felt strong gravitational pull find each other and confirm shared perception, creating consensus among sensitive individuals that something significant occurred when you entered. Others are dismissing or minimizing. People less sensitive to presence effects insist nothing unusual happened, that sensitive individuals are overreacting or imagining effects, creating tension between those who experienced profound shift and those who experienced minimal distortion. A few are questioning their own perception, noticing that others experienced strong effects they didn't feel, creates self-doubt about whether they're insensitive, blocked, or simply operating with different perceptual capacities that make them unable to detect presence fields others perceive clearly. Some studying individual differences recognize that sensitivity to subtle phenomena varies widely. Some people perceive energy fields, emotional atmospheres, or consciousness qualities that others are completely unaware of, making presence sensitivity another dimension where human perceptual capacity shows dramatic individual variation, others exploring empathy and social attunement. Note that sensitivity to others' internal states correlates with various factors. Empathic people, meditation practitioners, energy workers, and trauma survivors often develop heightened sensitivity to subtle interpersonal dynamics, including presence effects that less sensitive individuals don't consciously register. A few are investigating whether sensitivity is developable, questioning if presence perception can be cultivated through practice, or if it's relatively fixed trait, determining whether less sensitive individuals could learn to detect presence fields through training, or whether perceptual capacity is constrained by factors beyond training's reach. Some highly sensitive individuals feel validated, their experience of your gravitational presence being confirmed by others who felt similar effects validates perceptual capacities they've learned to doubt when mainstream culture treats presence sensitivity as imagination rather than as real Perceptual capacity. Others are developing theory about sensitivity factors, examining whether meditation practice, trauma history, empathic disposition, or other characteristics correlate with presence sensitivity. Trying to understand what makes some people highly attuned to presence effects, while others remain relatively insensitive. The architects observe that presence sensitivity individual variation. Recognition reveals that your gravitational effect didn't create uniform experience. Some felt profound distortion, while others barely noticed anything, revealing dramatic differences in presence perceptual capacity. Most phenomena create relatively shared experience. Presence effects vary by individual sensitivity and recognition. That same event created incompatible experiential realities depending on perceptual sensitivity, reveals that consciousness and presence operate in dimensions where human perceptual capacity varies so dramatically that shared physical space contains multiple experiential realities with sensitive individuals perceiving field distortions that insensitive individuals remain unaware of despite occupying same location when you walked in carrying gravitational force only some were built to detect and experience consciously.